Welcome to The Well, where we gather and talk about life and death and everything in between. I am Pastor Carrie, and my favorite floor tile is Saltillo.
My name is Jay, and my favorite soda is Coke Zero.
My name is Pastor Tim, and my favorite light source is the sun.
Fantastic.
So you got a joke for us?
Yeah,
Other
You
than
have a
that
joke?
one?
I heard you have a joke for us
I
today,
do.
Pastor
Well,
Tim.
there was this pastor who was very frugal, and he had to paint his house. But he thought, if I take that paint and I cut it, I'll be able to paint my whole house with just a couple gallons. And so he cut the paint and painted the whole house, and got the whole house, and it actually looked pretty good. He used the same color as before, so nothing was bleeding through. It worked out great. It was wonderful. It worked out great. Sorry. And he steps back, admiring his work, and all of a sudden this storm front comes roaring in. You know, one of those storm fronts where it just comes roaring in, and lightning, thunder, rain coming down in buckets. And all of his day's work just washed away. Then the sun comes out, and a voice from heaven says, "There now, go, repaint and thin no more."
I hate it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's it. Nothing can beat that except for introducing our friend Mel.
Hi, Mel.
Say hello, Mel. Say hello
Mel.
to all the people.
Oh, Mel.
Nice to see ya. Mel is our friend who lives in the well. It's why we gather here at the well. And he lives at the bottom, and he gathers all of the topics that people talk about, and they have for generations, just in case someday someone wants to come along and have a podcast that talks about different conversation topics, right? All right, so he is going to go down the well for us and grab some topics out for us today. You're going to do some good ones, though, right? Okay, here we go. And he's down. We can find our first topic for us today. All right, here he comes. And there it is. All right. Thank you, Mel. Looks like a big one, but...
We got a couple sentences here. So,
all right.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, poet-philosopher, on his time as a preacher, says, "I liked the silent church before the service began, better than any preaching." And then after the quote, it says, "You?" Question mark. You need to read it.
Silent church. I think Barbara Brown Taylor says something really similar about some of her times in the one of the smaller churches that she was a pastor of.
I might just be a little selfish here, but that last part, better than any preaching, it would have been a great quote without the slam on the preaching.
And he's the one who's preaching. So
I know he was. Yeah. But as someone who honestly loves the sound of his own voice, seriously, silence is actually one of my favorite times. Even without music, and we have so very little of it. I'm reminded that I haven't done it in a while, but my last confirmation classes years ago, I would be silent for 30 seconds with the students, and then ask them how long we were quiet. Mm-hmm. And we'd get 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It was 30 seconds. And I think the adults would be the same. We don't have silence. And I think it's a precious commodity. We need to really, I don't know the word I want to use, cultivate more or whatever, just to have silence.
yeah, I agree. I love this quote. I think it's it's of course interesting because he was the one who was preaching.
Yeah.
But talk about this a lot, but I spent a week at the Tennesse monastery in France, and it's a rhythm of monastic life where there's meal and prayer and study and meal and prayer. And so you end up attending 3 full hour services every day. And a big part of the Tennesse rhythm is silence. And it was incredibly powerful to sit in silence with, I was there in the winter, so it wasn't thousands of people. It was like 20s of people. But to sit in silence and 3 times a day, right, for a whole week. And when I got back to the U.S. And went back to seminary, I felt assaulted by all the words in the services. It just felt like being hit with machine gun fire words. It felt like I could not breathe. It felt like there was no space to breathe. And so I've really tried since then to remember that, to keep that in mind, that what a wonderful space it is to hold for people, to just be silent, especially together, because that can be one of the more uncomfortable ways we think of silence, and yet it can be such a powerful experience. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, agree.
Yeah, I agree, but I also am gonna probably contradict myself for a minute. Although I agree with that, to be truly honest and vulnerable, I spend most of my life avoiding silence. It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it and know how important it is. I spend a lot of my life avoiding it for whatever reason. Even just the other day, I didn't hit play on the playlist that I had on my phone for music before I started driving. And so until I hit a red light, I was just in silence in the car. And I don't know if you heard the phrase that sometimes the silence is deafening. And that's how it felt, but not necessarily for the wrong reasons. Just like it was a realization of like, oh my goodness, I try to fill like every moment with some form of noise. But then on the flip side is like Pastor Tim, that is a practice that we do within youth ministry here at St. Luke's, and specifically on our various summer trips. In the evening when we do our like worship service,
I was going to say, is it in the car?
Yeah.
Do you enforce a silent
We're going to do an
car?
undisclosed amount of period of time of silence in this van.
Pull this car over.
Don't make me pull it over.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah. You try that, Pastor Carey. Let me know how it goes. Well, and so now we're down that road. I do think, and I'm not blaming myself being a youth director for this, but like I do think like my personality is to kind of like always create some form of something or noise. And that works well in youth ministry till you realize like we all need that silence too. And so that is something on the mission trips that we've tried to do more is start our conversations with some silence before we start talking. And it is definitely really beneficial. And I, not to be selfish about it, but I find myself benefiting from that a lot too. And then it takes me till the next summer to remember I need that. But, so yes, I agree.
It's a work in progress.
Do I practice it all the time? No. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Mel, let's pop back up here and let's try another one. Here we go. He's searching around. All right, looks like he's got something.
He's digging for that
us.
one.
I know. Ooh. Thanks, Mel.
Oh my. It's actually one of my favorite sayings of Jesus. Jesus, why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. Mark 10:18 and Luke 18:19. What is Jesus saying?
What is Jesus saying? That is such a good question. I would happily defer to anyone who has immediate thoughts on this one.
If it's one of your favorite quotes, go for it.
Please.
Jesus, it's actually a challenge from Jesus, because if you call me good, and only God is good alone, then are you making a divinity statement? Are you declaring me divine? When he called him good teacher, which was actually kind of a throwback at the person, because he knew it was a setup. Jesus was being set up with a question, good teacher, and why do you call me good? Only God alone is good. To me, when I hear it, my understanding of this is Jesus is saying, you're willing to call me good? I'm not going to argue with you, but only God is good. So if you're calling me good, you are calling me God. So this is actually a divine statement by Jesus, and that's why it stands out to me. That's why I like it so much, because as someone who kind of plays broadly with the English language, having Jesus do this, and when I finally discovered what he was doing, that it was you're calling me God. Why, thank you. It's brilliant to me. It's a brilliant statement. Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. That's why I love it so much. It's Jesus taking someone who's coming after him and just throwing it right back at him, saying, "Okay, deal with this. It's your words, not mine."
I'll be honest, I don't have too much theological to say on this, other than the fact that I like the fact that we see kind of like a sassy side of Jesus, if you will.
Yeah.
I actually like that
A lot.
a lot. And maybe that is actually a theological statement, but I would say yeah to what you're saying. Like I like where you're going with that. Like especially because that's what, if you journey closer to the cross, that ends up being what puts Jesus on the cross, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Jesus is like, you just said this. And I kind of like that side of Jesus of like, well, looky there.
Look what you're doing.
Yeah. And then humbled by when Jesus' words can do that to me. Sometimes I accept him kicking and screaming, sometimes otherwise. But knowing that, like, yeah, I like that side of Jesus.
Yes, interesting thoughts both, for sure. I think where I kind of go with it too is that we know that these stories were originally preserved in just oral stories and histories that people told about Jesus. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so interesting that this one would sort of come, would make this journey both to be written in Mark, but also then to be taken by Luke as well. Matthew doesn't pick this story up,
Matthew had no sense of humor.
Everyone knows that about Matthew.
Tax collector.
Because, it is, you could look at this as Jesus saying that he isn't God, right? I mean, and a lot of people actually do interpret this to mean that, well, he didn't call himself God, because look, he says he differentiates between himself and God. So I think it's interesting that we have but we preserved it. We preserved this story, right? Which is one of the things that I love about Scripture, is it plays around with black and white and gray areas and with words as well. So,
and I think that some people using this to say Jesus is. We have this tradition that everything Jesus did was serious, like the floating Jesus from the 1950s movies, like the nun in the Blues Brothers. No, he played with people's minds. He was human. He used that. You want to call me good? You know who else is good?
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see Jesus laughing with the disciples around the fire. I can see Jesus saying, "Okay, Peter, tell me that thing again about how I'm not supposed to do this. Go on, go for it." I can see him doing that after the resurrection. Hey, go ahead.
You just that reminded me of this scene. So for context, where confirmation is using parts of the movie The Shack to have some conversations. And there's this scene in The Shack where the character that's portraying Jesus, and they're looking at the water, and Mac, the character, says, "Look at that big fish," and the one portraying Jesus says, "And I've been trying to catch that for weeks." And Max says, "If you're Jesus, why can't you just catch it?" And he goes, "Well, what's the fun in that?" Like,
exactly.
I love
that.
it's almost like the same idea of like, and
That's right.
yeah.
Another one of these that never gets brought. One of my favorite post-resurrection stories is Jesus in John sitting there cooking breakfast for the guys who've been out all night, haven't caught anything, and he's there cooking fish. Like, that's hilarious to me. She's like, "Did you catch anything, boys?"
That's yeah, exactly.
So yeah, this falls right into my right in my strike zone.
Fantastic. All right, good job, Mel. You want to try it one more time? All right, let's see what we come up with. Took him a long time to hit the water that time. I don't know.
Yeah, he took a long jump on that one.
Oh, okay. It looks like he's on his way back up. Okay, here he comes. All right, Mel. Thank you.
Bye, Mel.
Bye, Mel.
Thanks, Mel.
All right. What do we have here? Okay, looks like a bit of a long one. A Tennessee pastor recently admitted a past sexual incident/assault with a teen. His congregation gave him a standing ovation. Does this speak more to you of forgiveness or of letting people in leadership get away with something because we like or support them?
Woof.
I don't know this story.
Oh yeah, it's not as recent as it's probably 10 years or so. But yeah, is that about right? 8 years? So, I know I lived in Texas at the time, so
I remember it now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember this when this happened.
Broken.
So, I'm gonna say personally that I don't think the applause was for forgiveness. I think it was sometimes we find ourselves following a person and not following Jesus. And in leadership, I believe that we are called to always point past ourselves to Jesus. And I can't read into the motives or anything, and I'm not going to do that for this particular pastor or church. But I think we ride a really slippery slope of following, and unfortunately at times worshiping a person and a leader versus Jesus. And so, I will obviously not give any information, but I've experienced people misusing power, and had to be the one to call that out and bring it forward to the church. And I will say that one of the biggest things I learned in that situation was that forgiveness doesn't mean to allow it to continue to happen. Forgiveness means to wish them well while finding ways to make sure that does not happen again. And I'm not sure that admitting it in front of your church and getting applause is allowing it to not happen again. That's my quick answer.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
All that runs through my mind as I hear this is there may have just been one or many children, but how many of those children were possibly there
of course
when the congregation or were in the community and heard about the standing applause that their pastor got for abusing them? Whenever we do a cult of a pastor or a leader, we run into trouble. I spent a month at a J. Terman seminary in Guyana, and everybody, there was no mention of Jim Jones. And when it was finally mentioned, they said, that's an American problem. Yeah, because that was considered American territory, U.S. territory, until a few years ago. They did not want it. And I just think of all the troubles that the church has gotten in, and the church has in hiding this type of behavior and protecting those, moving them on. And it's not just one denomination that you might say, oh, it's
not.
The ELCA and its congregations that formed the ELCA all had problems with this, because when you have a charismatic leader, they can use that charisma for awful things. The problem is people who are, I can't think of any other way, but pedophiles will find themselves going into roles like becoming a youth pastor, becoming a teacher, becoming a leader of a youth organization. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. And for the church to be co-conspirators is...
It would be better for them if a millstone were tied around their neck and they were shoved off a cliff.
Yeah.
I feel like
Take
Jesus
Jesus
said
at
something
his
about that.
word on that one.
Yeah.
Boy, what I would like to just highlight is we it's not about sex, it's about power. Right, that's what I want to say. Right, because then you get into this whole purity culture of like, see what happens when people have sex. Then pastors have sex with teenagers, and it all leads to that thing. No, it doesn't have anything to do with sex. It's all about power, right?
Mm-hmm. Violence.
Exactly.
Violence, yeah.
Sexual violence isn't sexual; it's violent, right? And it has everything to do with power. So I think sometimes we make a mistake also by limiting powerful people to, well, at least they never had sex with anyone they weren't supposed to have sex with, right? And so if they don't do that, then they're probably okay. And yet misuse of power it goes on in so many different,
rampant, right?
Yes, and equally violent ways. And you're right, we have it seems that the church has a really hard time holding people in power accountable, right?
Really hard.
Power does that, right? I had a good friend who is in upper echelons of sort of Christian church management, if you want to say that, who dealt with this kind of thing a lot and said to me, you would not believe the number of times that a person in power has done right, because we're talking also about sort of financial crimes here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it goes on and on, right?
Yep.
All of these abuses of power, and when the entity that runs the church kind of finds out about it, and they talk about it, and they have a meeting about it, and he comes and helps them out with it maybe, and at the end they kind of say like, well, I think we can just forgive them. And we all make mistakes. What can we do? And my friend was saying, I often have to just say, no, you are not allowed. You may forgive them, of course, but they are not allowed to continue.
There are consequences for sin.
Right. I think when we give that much power to humans who are fallible, and we understand and we know that for whatever reason, power corrupts, you can be, right? And I don't want to be super nerdy here, but we can talk about the ring from Lord of the Rings, right? It's the ring of power.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what your intentions are. I don't care if you're going to use that power for good to save the world. That kind of power will corrupt you. Mm-hmm. And I think we are really bad as humans, and especially human institutions, to hold people accountable who are in power.
In one of the churches I served, a former pastor, through a counseling situation, had an affair with an of-age girl. She was 18, so there was nothing illegal about it. And she became pregnant, and there were still, 10 years later, a number of people in the church who were upset that he was removed because he was such a good pastor and he was so good for the church.
Good preacher, right? They're always good preachers. Why is that?
He was good with his tongue, which is partly what got him into trouble. His words were smooth and silky, and I'm sorry, I'm being a little crass here, but when you are in a counseling situation, you are in extreme power.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Dealing with people in extreme distress.
And so,
and that's oftentimes when it happens.
The more I have this question rumbling in my mind, the more my stomach gets upset, because what we get upset about when it involves love, and we get upset about it, but when it involves violence and control and, in my opinion, rape, oh, but he's such a good pastor.
Right.
I'm done.
Yeah. It's, again, we could spend
a lot, yeah.
I wonder if some chicken salad would help. How is that segue? I happen to have some chicken salad with me. What a coincidence.
Wow.
I have.
My day is not approving at this point. I am not a chicken, ham, or egg salad person, so here we go.
All right, we will see what we can do.
What is
here.
ham salad?
Yeah, it's the same as chicken salad, only with ham. Ground in a meat grinder. Have you not had it? It has pickles in it.
It's like the the state,
I don't feel like I'm missing
It's
out,
like the
to be
state dish of Iowa.
Oh, that tracks.
Yes. All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Okay, let's get our plates over here. So this is from the Vermont Lutheran Church in Black Earth.
I want it on top of my old one.
Okay, there we go. As you can see, there's plenty here. So the thing that surprised me about this chicken salad is that there's cucumbers in it. There's celery like you would expect, onion. There's some fresh dill in it, but there's also cucumbers in it. All right, chicken salad. Very, very church basement-y. I did make it last night.
Nothing would make it better than putting it between two slices of dry white bread.
I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if that's an endorsement.
I'm not sure.
We do on the Hawaiian rolls. Any chicken salad, egg salad on the King's Hawaiian rolls.
It's good.
Pulled pork. Why ruin the rolls?
I also misplaced my fork, so I'm like just taking little pieces of chicken.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's on me.
fork.
We're good.
Actually, you have to have the cucumber because that
Yep, nope, I got that.
makes it better.
I kind
It's
of like
actually a
it.
chicken salad I like.
I know I should
kinda
have listened
fresh.
earlier, but is that dill?
It is dill. Yeah.
I like that.
Matt has one of those hydroponic growing things that are indoors that have the light, and so we have like so much dill all the time. Really? So I just
The
happen
dill
to
really
have
takes
this.
over on those things.
Oh my! There's
insane.
nothing but dill on it. I mean, it's just like dill is like a tree, and everything else is kind of tiny. But I like the dill in it too. It tastes kind of summery.
So I am traditionally not necessarily a chicken salad guy, and this is hands down the best one I've had.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
I'm
agree.
So, do you guys think it's the cucumber? I don't know.
I think
Did
it's
you
both.
use Costco chicken?
I did
Yeah,
not
let's
use
go down to Costco.
I did not go to Costco and get the rotisserie.
Oh,
You know they're
that would bring it-
$5.
They're only $5 though. That bring it up another level.
You could.
You could.
You could use that.
Jokes
chicken.
aside, you could.
I did not, but you could.
So
Like
I'm
it.
gonna go and understand this is actually a high rating for me because of my view of chicken salad. I'm gonna go 4.
I cannot complain about that.
Yep.
I will say this is the best chicken salad I had, and Betty, I even had seconds, which has never happened before. But I still give it a 3.5.
Chicken salad being
Chicken
what it
salad
is.
being what it is.
I get it.
I'll give it a 4. I generally just like chicken salad. I've never had it with cucumber, and I love cucumber.
Right.
So
I
Dill was nice too.
I think a 4 is for me as well. I do like apples in chicken salad. It's one of those things. I do like apples in chicken salad because I feel like it has that little bit of sour is really good, and I feel like that's what I'm missing in this. The
If
flavor's
you
a
added
little
a
bit
Granny
flat.
Smith, it would be great.
I think it'd be better. Yeah.
I like raisins in my chicken salad.
Okay, what?
Yes.
Oh my god.
This is what I'm here for.
The salad,
Why
so
would
wonderful,
someone
it's
ever
raisins,
do
and make
something
the
like that?
salad so marvelous. More raisins, much more raisins than you could ever have.
It's worse than a cookie with raisins because I'm definitely not expecting raisins in the chicken salad. And the it would like put the mayonnaise, it would absorb the mayonnaise.
so good.
Oh, no.
That would probably push it right to 4.5.
That's something real wrong.
Both of the things, what was it, raisins and apple? If we had that in there, it might become a 375.
You want to save us with a God moment?
Actually, I do. This week we are in Lent, and I'm preaching this week. I'm not going to say which week it is, but was having such a difficult time with the sermon. Matter of fact, the people in staff probably heard me complain about the sermon more than anything they've ever heard me complain about. I mean, I ate so much cheese just to absorb all the wine that I had. And I don't know how Doug felt while
You're only allowed one joke per podcast.
We're on like joke 4.
And we are over our limit.
But I did not stay on script. And I just got pulled away from what I was going to say and started just talking about what the topic was and the readings. And I hope it was good because I really felt really good about it. I felt like I wasn't in control. That words were coming out that were good. Now, Doug might tell you differently because he's the only person that's seen it so far. But it was surprising that here I was complaining so much. And I think a lot of times we put so much on ourselves that we kind of have to get back and get out of the way for the Spirit to work. So that was my God moment.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us at the well. May God's peace be with you.
The Well is a podcast of St. Luke's ELCA in Middleton, Wisconsin. You can follow for new episodes airing every other Thursday on St. Luke's website or wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to drop a question in The Well, you can dive over to stlukes-elca.org/thewell to submit your questions there. The Well is sponsored by St. Luke's Foundation. The foundation is dedicated to leaving a legacy for future generations. You can learn more at stlukes-elca.org/foundation. The Well is produced by Doug Castle and edited by Ariana Vizcara. Thanks for listening, and we'll meet you next time here at The Well. That's good.
But seriously, raisins and curry.
Oh gosh, no! Why? I thought you were going to talk about something else. This
You leaned into it and everything.
Oh my gosh!
Here's what we do: chicken salad, raisins, curry, cashew.
Okay, I'm with you on the curry because I have had the curry chicken salad and I like those flavors together.